President Trump promised to move quickly to replace Justice Kennedy on the High Court, and he's wasted no time interviewing his candidates this week and planning to announce his decision on prime time on Monday evening. To take us through the process and what's yet to come, welcome now Steve Dennis, who covers the Senate for Bloomberg. Steve, welcome. Good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Let's spend a minute on the candidates, and then let's talk about the Senate, which you cover, and what's going to go on up there. We've got a handful of candidates, evidently all have been interviewed, and a lot of reports sort of narrow it down to three, and they are, of course, Coney Barrett, thank you, and Brett Kavanaugh, and Raymond Kethledge is who the three candidates are, but there are some others we put up here as well. The one thing that's consistent about all of these are conservative candidates. What have you heard about where the horse race is?
Yeah, you know, Bloomberg's been reporting for about the past hour that those three top picks that you just mentioned are definitely at the top, and that Coney Barrett is just maybe in third place, and it's between Kavanaugh and Kethledge, it looks like at this point. But things could still change. You know, we're dealing with President Trump. He changes his mind from time to time. There's still a couple of days before the announcement. But, you know, I think a lot of what this ultimately is going to come down to is whether the president can get some idea of whether these picks are going to be confirmable. You know, it's a very tightly divided Senate, and it's no guarantee that whoever he nominates on Monday night gets through.
And he's also got a couple senators now that are apparently lobbying for Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, saying we think he'd be the best candidate by far, although he's not mentioned as in the top picks. It strikes me the president has a delicate equation here. On the one hand, he wants to be able to predict more or less how he thinks these people are going to vote without asking them on some important issues. On the other hand, he's got to think about how that's going to play with those senators, because you just say he's got a one-vote swing. So how does that play out? Is this going to come down to a social sort of conservatism or maybe an economic sort of conservatism?
I think the main thing when it comes to the theater of this confirmation fight in the Senate is to have some kind of plausible deniability for these pro-choice, pro-Roe v. Wade Republicans who ultimately may make this decision. People like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and Shelley Moore Capito as well of West Virginia. You know, these senators have supported Roe previously. They've told voters when they were running for re-election that they supported Roe. This might be the decision that potentially could overturn Roe. And so they're not going to be able to have the person come before the committee and say what their position is one way or the other. Instead, it's going to be sort of this kabuki theater. And the question is whether they feel comfortable enough that they feel like they won't overturn Roe. And yet, at the same time, if the person comes across as too pro-Roe or too pro-precedent, you'll have conservatives come out and complain that President Trump isn't living up to his promise to overturn Roe. So it's quite a pickle here for these senators, for the president, for the nominee, whoever it is.
So Stephen, that's on the Republican side. Is there any chance of picking up any Democrat senators?
Yeah, I think the two most likely Democrats are both opposed to abortion rights. Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Joe Donnelly of Indiana. They're both on the ballot in November in states that Trump won handily. You have a third, Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota. She favors abortion rights, but she did vote to confirm the president's previous pick, Justice Gorsuch. So she does, you know, she probably wants to vote yes ahead of that election.
Okay, well, we'll all know Monday night, it sounds like. Okay, Bloomberg Senate reporter Stephen Dennis, thanks so much for joining us from Washington.